Hey there, Beat Academy member, and welcome to this tutorial video. Now, this is going to be a little different than my usual breakdown videos in which I walk you through my whole thought process and what I'm doing to a song that I've commercially released, and I kind of break down that video track by track. In this video, what we're going to be doing is working alongside a fellow member like yourself, where they're sending me their project and their sessions, and I'm kind of diving in, giving my perspective and feedback to help get to the finish line of what the artist is trying to do. So what we have here is a session and a project by a Beat Academy member named Gabriella. Now, she sent me over the stems, and I was asking, okay, I've got the project. Now, where are we headed? What's the reference? What are we doing? Like, what is it? If you had a magic button that you could press and make your track feel and sound similar to fill in the blank, what would that be? So she also gave me a reference to use, and that is the artist Sev Dalizia. I'm totally butchering it. Let me actually head over here. Sev Dalizia. All right, so Sev Dalizia, and a couple of songs is Human and That Other Girl. Now, never heard of the artist before until it was brought to my attention from this project, but really excited to dive into this. And my goal for this video is to kind of give you the thought process of how to take, how to go from maybe steps 1 through 5 and then take it from 5 to 10. All right, so let's dive right in. So let's take a listen to Gabriella's project.
You gotta say goodbye till it becomes a fight, till it becomes a dream that's sleeping by. You know, outside's getting cold. Your face is turning gold, I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am out of this storm. Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far.
All right, so just stopping it there just to we have a general idea. And now what I'd like to do is just take a moment and dive into the reference and just contrast what is the reference, what feeling, what emotion, what vibe do we get from the reference, and then how do we get to this where we're at with Gabriella's project, and how do we take it to that reference. So I have the reference here on in Ableton Live. The first one is a song called The Other Girl. So let's take a listen to that.
He never knew what I was made of. Heat couldn't melt me, cold couldn't cave me. He never knew my form or shape. His heart couldn't melt me, water couldn't bathe me. Caught him gambling with a snare. He took me all the way in despair, operating from another world. I want to be that other girl. That other girl. Want to be that other girl.
So really cool, really minimal. And I'm just trying to throw, like, what emotions am I getting when I'm listening to this? Obviously, it's got this dark, sensual type of vibe to it. Very minimalistic in production. We've got the nice tight kick, some classic old school snare. We've got the elements are just, they're there, they're dry, they're in your face. The vocals also there too. Not a lot of reverb, and then we've got that nice chorus widening effect happening to the vocals in the chorus section. But man, it's just I can feel the tension. I can feel like almost like this is a total dark vibe. Put my headphones in, and that like rain tapping on the window, and I'm just in that dark vibe type of place, and so once I listen to that, I'm trying to get that emotion across to the other project, and here's another reference that she has. Same artist, and the song's called Human.
In and out.
So we're getting this sense of minimalistic, but just nailing the right sound selection. And that can actually be very difficult to accomplish because we tend to just think, okay, I'll find a sound, put this and layer it and multiply that, and then it'll just flood the stuff up. So right off the reference, let's listen to our project now.
You gotta say goodbye till it becomes a fight, till it becomes a dream that's
Now, the first thing I'm going to focus on is on that piano chord track that we're hearing. And it's very lush, very wide, and it probably taking away from some of that intimacy that we can create. Now, if we mute it, let's see what it sounds like with just the vocal kick and that bass.
your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror.
That already is creating more intimacy and aligning itself more with the vibe. Listen to it with the piano chords.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror.
See how like the wideness puts you in a different space?
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror.
So I like that vibe. So we might have to focus on recreating the piano patch, something with a lot more of a darker, straight ahead tone, not so wide. So I'm thinking like a one oscillator synth. I'll probably use an analog for this. So I'm going to create a MIDI track, and I'll put that MIDI track right underneath the piano. And let's use the analog instrument. Now, if you're an Ableton Live user and you're not using Suite, Standard Light Edition won't come with the analog. You can use any third-party plugin, any synthesizer that you might have, or any DAW that you're currently using. All the basic principles that I'm going to show you can be applied through that process. So let me go ahead and get the chords. So I was able to get the chords by just clicking, dragging, and dropping the audio and choosing harmony. And what that's going to do is it's just going to extract the actual notes that are present in the audio and convert that to MIDI right there. So that's what we have. Did a little cleaning up because there's a couple notes that don't actually belong there. But once I've done that, here are the notes that we have. Now we got to do is shape the tone. So I want it dark. I don't want it bright. So let's solo that. So I'm going to start with just one oscillator. I'll leave it at the sawtooth, or we can just do straight sine wave to get the. And that's it. I mean, that's the importance and key of understanding what waveform sounds best. And if you can get as close as possible to the sound you're looking for from the get-go, you're much better off. There's less tweaking, less things you have to do. So in this case, if I had the sawtooth waveform, it'd be bright, and we could darken it by just lowering the frequency cutoff. But I like having the sine wave because it does the same thing, and it's a much richer tone. So we'll leave it at sine wave, and then we're going to go to the amp envelope, and we're going to increase the sustain so that the notes are a little bit glued together. And we'll raise the attack so we're not just getting an abrupt punch every time the chord's being played. And extend the release just a little bit. This is shaping the body of the tone. And now we're going to use a little modulation so that there's some movement going on there. And this creates this nice, cool, vintage, classic synth type vibe. And so we're going to click on the oscillator section, and we're going to turn on our LFO. We want the LFO to slightly modulate and detune the pitch. So I'm just going to crank this up. Let's take it to 5. What we got to do here is, let's exaggerate so you can hear the effect. You can hear how it's wobbling in pitch. So determining on the rate, so it's way too much. So we'll lower this down. I can also route the same LFO to the amp. Now let's just add some saturation. So we'll go to a saturator because we want to gritty it up a little bit. I'm going to crank the drive and then dial it back here on the output. And then we can mess around with the dry and wet a little bit. Now I want some of that distortion in there because we're going to filter it out with another filter after that. So why are we filtering out the distortion, or why put distortion there in the first place? Because it's actually adding some extra harmonics. It's beefing up the actual body of that synth as well. And so filtering out a lot of the top end just helps hide it, but it's still keeping the saturation to it. And now we can go ahead and just kind of, let's see what this sounds like along with everything else.
Your face is turning gold, I feel it in the mirror.
And that could just be melody choice, right? So the bass, it's just the actual placement of that. So I can either go into my chords here and fix that. So let's do this here, screen this up. That's the one that's got to go. And this one's got to go too. It's important to know that, you know, certain notes will conflict. So the bass line's playing this, but we're also playing some different notes that are conflicting with that bass line. Same thing here with this chord. So we're going to go back to that and clean up any of the so that just empty this one out. And I'm going to nudge them over so that it's not vibing well at all with me. So move this over here. Let me take this out. And I'm just kind of going back and forth to see what notes are going to work well between the bass and these chords. And just copy this performance over. Now let's see without the chords.
Turning gold, I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
It's cool. Let's try layering this with a sawtooth here now.
Your face is turning gold, I feel it in the.
Now it gives a little bit more presence, so that's kind of cool. And then we'll fill.
Your face is turning gold, I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
And we're gonna have to do a little bit of shaping here with the sustain. So now this filter is affecting both oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. So I might want to independently have them routed. So I'll just do this so that filter 2 changes oscillator 2. And we'll use a little bit of vinyl distortion to give some little extra drive, some crackle. And I'm going to turn the LFO on to add some movement and modulation to oscillator 2. So same thing here. So let's raise this up. Now we'll balance this out a little bit more. So that's all I'm doing. Just I want more of that lower end present.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not.
Now I'll go to the bass and let's just filter out all that top end from the bass.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am out. Oh.
Now let's compare. Let's get this with the.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am out.
And then the cool thing is you can use some automation to open up this filter.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
What's giving it that nice, authentic, raw feel is the LFO slightly detuning the oscillators. And so that's a really cool effect that gives it that classic synth feel. There's a few elements I want to actually add some additional things to. So when I listen to the reference, I notice the kick has a little bit more of that top end rubbery type of sound. Let me just focus on that really quick. So that's what I'm hearing, and I want to kind of incorporate that with the kick that we have. Ours has a nice body. It's got some nice low end beef, but we can go ahead and add some. Now I could try to EQ it, but chances are if it's not there to begin with, EQing, going crazy EQing the high end isn't gonna do much. Let's just import a kick, and the top end can easily come from a stock 808 kick drum. So if I go to my drums folder here, drum hits, I'll filter it out by looking for 808. I'll go to kick here and just find a nice crispy top end kick. That one might work really well. Let's see if I can. So that's the file we're gonna use. So let's go ahead and create a MIDI track, and I'm gonna just drag and drop that onto that MIDI track, and that's gonna create a simpler there. So if there we go. And what I'll do is bring that all the way up here to the drums. And let's just copy that kick drum pattern, copy that. And this time we're just gonna hit drums. And this is gonna extract the audio information. And this is all the delay stuff here. So we're just looking for the actual kick pattern. So let's just play this. Now, since we are in a simpler, it transposed to that C1. So I'm gonna go a couple off, because C3 is the root note of this sample. And what that means is this pitch, when I play the C3 note on my MIDI controller, is playing the original pitch of the sample. If I go anywhere to the left of C3, it's gonna start lowering the pitch of the sample. Anywhere to the right of C3, it's gonna raise the pitch of that sample. So I just wanna play the original pitch of the sample. And I'm gonna go to one shot here, and we might just cause a little bit of fade out here. We're just looking for that top part. That's what I'm kind of looking for here. So, and then what I could do is just let's use an EQ and see if I can layer that with our kick. It's pretty good. Let's see with everything else.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
So having that top layer really helps the kick being pronounced a little bit more in your face. And I'm probably just gonna group these two here now that I've got that kick in there, and I'll just rename this new kick. Oops, new kick. Okay, and then I can just do a little saturating with both of them in there. Just drop a saturator on there, and I'll let it go like that.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am out of this door.
So nice presence there with the kick. Really cool. I'm liking that. And we can just add, now I noticed she has a drum part here, a snare. So maybe on the downbeat. So yeah, that. All right, let's add a, like, let me go back to the reference and what do they have here? Yeah, so it's also like a crisp, clean 808 drum sound. So drum here. Let's go to snare, and I'll filter it out also with an 808. Just standard. I'm looking for like the standard stock 808. So this would be the standard. This would be the standard one here. Just drag and drop that into a new MIDI track. And let's just put the actual note down here.
Your face.
Right here.
Your face is turning gold.
And just place it right here. So I'm just putting it on the downbeat. There we go. We'll just loop this section for right now.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out.
Now let's add some grit to that. That's saturation is such a key element to this. We're gonna saturate this 808 snare. And I'm gonna use the EQ after the saturation just to turn out a little. Their snare on the reference is a lot thinner, so. And in this case, we might want to use a compressor to raise the transient of that snare a little bit. So compressor and slow attack, medium attack, quick release, big strength. The reason why is because we want the initial attack of the snare to be present. If the compressor works too fast, it's going to kill the front end of the snare, and then the body will be present. I want the front of the snare to be present, the body to be gone. That's all right. That's what we're doing, and we'll give it some. All right, let's check that out now.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am.
Let's compare now with taking some of these elements out. Let's take my kick out. Let's take the new snare out. Then let's bring the old piano and the chords.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror.
See, all those elements just cause it to be a lot more intimate. Let's take the piano back out.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
I want to add just like a little bit of chorus to that snare and say, what? Yeah, let's see what it does. It actually helps sends it back. So we keep the snap, but we're widening it up and sending it back.
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control.
All right, let's take a listen to the next part of the arrangement, which I would call the chorus section here.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error, go beyond there, it's been a while.
All right, so let's go ahead and take the piano part out, the same piano chords that we had out before. We're gonna now incorporate our piano parts in there. Let's go ahead and add the snare and the kick. I just had the elements that we've added from the previous part of the arrangement muted so we can hear what was originally there. Now let's bring on our stuff here.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error.
And we're adding some automation here. So you can see here I'm showing automation to the synth part. And I'm just slowly building up here. I rose the filter frequency up a little bit. I'm automating that filter that we have on everything and just sloping that up. Cool. So we're building up there. Now let me just focus on that vocal. So the vocal here, now this is, even though this is a hard part, because even though we have the reference, different vibe, different thing, you know, she's got that one thing, that other girl, wide stereo chorus, delayed kind of thing happening. Here we have more of a building, you know, anticipation and just a ramp up with the vocal delivery here. So let's talk about some of the vocal things that we can do here. First thing, let's deal with a couple little pitch stuff that we hear. And I'll use the Waves Real Tune for this. And one of the reasons why I like using this one is because the reference tone thing that has on here, I can just simply, I can kind of find that reference tune, the A, and then whether or not it's an A minor or A major. That would be A major. I mean A minor. That would be A major. So I know it's an A minor. And we'll just go ahead A natural minor.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far.
All right, and then we'll just ease up on the speed so we don't get that robo effect. And let's put a gate. Let's put a gate on before that. Put the noise floor all the way down. I noticed there was some metronome bleed from the headphones, so we'll be able to get rid of that by using a gate.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending.
So I'm gonna open up the hold a little bit and slow the release down just a little bit.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error, go beyond there, it's been a while, can feel the flavor of a...
So kind of have to figure out what notes, you know, maybe a little bit less of the tuning. I'll just over here so that we're not getting a lot of that robotic feel to it. All right. And now let me just go ahead and use some EQ. So let's go over to the Fab filter.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error.
Being that we have a lot of the elements living in the low mid right now, let me see how this sounds like in context with everything.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error, go beyond there, it's been a while.
Okay, so that's fine. I'm gonna just take a little bit of that low mid out and just brighten it up.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error.
And I'm just gonna use a little de-essing. Let's just de-ess her vocal. I'm using the Eosis de-esser here, classic de-essing concept preset, and then
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far.
that's cool. It's capturing all those nice S's and sibilants.
lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so far.
And I'm going to just control the dynamics. I'm going to use, I'll just use an LA to a, I'm going to use a little bit of this to control the dynamics and get a more smoother performance.
Lasting tremor. Lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so far.
A little hiccup with eyes, so I might need to lower the threshold a little bit on the gate.
Lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so far. Transcending error. Go beyond her. It's been a while. Can feel the flavor.
So we have that, can feel the, right there, that note. That's just falling out of place. So
It's been a while. Can feel the
that one right there could be that the tuning is forcing it to go somewhere. So if I take the tuning off,
can feel the
so right there, well, I'll just go ahead and click that note, double click that and transpose it. Right, so I went one down and then I'll put the tuning back on to really nail in the
can feel the flavor over the flavor.
same thing with this. See how it's going? Little. So I'll just double click this and try going down. Now, might had the first part good, so I'll just blend it in like that.
Over dusk, filled with time.
And I'm going to instead use a delay over here on my return track. And I'm going to set the delay from sync, where it syncs up with the project's timing, to time, so I can go from notes to milliseconds. And I'm going to slightly give one, the left and the right, different milliseconds in delay. So if I solo the vocal
Lasting,
and I send some of that vocal to return track D,
lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so far.
that's what's giving me that nice wide stereo depth.
Lasting tremor. Eyes are flickering so far. Transcending.
So as opposed to a reverb, which will cause her to be more in the back or just cause some dimension space, the delay is really causing her to just spread widely, and she's still in your face there. So I really kind of like that vibe and the tension that it's causing with her vocal there. And see what it does in any other part of the arrangement. So if we're here,
Your face is turning gold. I feel it in the mirror. You're shouting out if you're not in control. I am out of this door.
so that delay widens really nicely, and maybe even having a really, really short reverb. You can experiment with having a short reverb room, or, you know, a delay with a really short time, just to add some of the width to the vocal without actually having to lose the depth that you're getting from that vocal performance. Let's try using that technique for the verses. So we'll use the wide delay for that chorus section, and then we'll use like a small tight room reverb for the verses. So here on Send B, I've got it's called like a big room preset, a standard reverb plugin in Ableton Live. Let's move the size down a little bit. Let's listen to it. I'm going to send just her vocal through this reverb.
You gotta say goodbye.
All right, we'll get rid of the low end here.
You gotta say goodbye.
And let's try cranking the pre-delay.
You gotta say goodbye.
And then the pre-delay made the vocal, the reverb a little too delayed. So let's do the opposite. Let's shorten the pre-delay.
You gotta say goodbye.
And shorter decay time and more reflection.
You gotta say goodbye.
And then I'll just widen it up, the stereo response there. And so let's see what that does.
You gotta say goodbye.
This is without it,
You gotta say goodbye.
and then with it.
You gotta say goodbye.
So it adds the right type of ambience that I'm looking for.
You gotta say goodbye till it becomes a fight, till it becomes a dream that's sleeping by. You know, outside's getting cold.
And that's what I'm using the really short reverb to do, is just add some extra ambience to her voice and not necessarily have it so dry. So it just gives a little bit of that ambience, and then we'll just crank up the stereo with delay during the chorus sections. Now, after spending some time getting a little balance there and just kind of measuring things out and creating the kind of feel I want, I'm going to add a couple things to the master chain just to kind of tighten things up a little bit. So I'm going to start with just EQing the master bus a little bit. And let's just take a listen to what's going on here. So just EQing and notch out a couple things, take out and boost a little bit. Well, not a little bit. We're actually boosting a lot of the air or high end of this track here. So let me just bypass what's going on here. We'll bypass the EQ and put it back on.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error. Go beyond her, it's been a while, can feel the flavor of.
So just doing some EQing to just kind of give some more brightness out of that, the airiness out of the track. And then I'm going to go ahead and compress. I'm using the Slate Digital or any SSL type compressor would do. And I'm just doing 4:1 compression, small amounts of compression here, about 1 to 2, barely 3 dB.
Lasting tremor.
Got a slow attack and a really fast release.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending.
Notice that when it's off, the kick comes out, the kick is like right dominant, but when you put the compressor on, the kick is still up front, but then everything else kind of just comes up a little and sandwiched together really nicely. So then after that, just gonna warm it up a little with some tape saturation. So another Slate tape saturation here. There's a great amount of tape saturations out there. Just find one that you kind of vibe with, or that your budget allows you to have. And I'm just kind of using this to just smooth off the high end a little bit that I've added from the EQ.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error. Go beyond her, it's been a while.
And then I'm going to use a limiter on here just to go ahead and give that boost of gain or volume at the end of the line.
Lasting tremor, eyes are flickering so far, transcending error. Go beyond her, it's been a while, can feel the flavor of a dusk filled with time.
So those are a couple things that we've added onto what was already there in this project to create the type of intimacy that the artist had in mind with the references. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% dead on exactly like the reference, but remember, I'm trying to extract the main emotion, and that was the intimacy, the right in the face thing that I'm hearing from the reference. And so what can I do to apply to get that type of feeling from where we're at with the project? So there's a couple things that we can do that I've done that I think personally to achieve that. And then it's just about going out through the arrangement and sprinkling all the elements that we added throughout there and just gluing the transitions together, things like that. But all in all, I hope this was a helpful video for you, kind of walking you through how we can build up towards what we're trying to achieve. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next course.